This is a tour of Inteleview, the world's first major HTML5 WebGL-based world browser. First, we'll look at a few different viewing modes like Columbus view, flat view, and now we'll go back to globe view. If we tilt the world down and zoom in somewhere and get lost, just so you know, we can always click in the upper right to reset our world view to find ourselves again. Now let's open up the layer manager so that we can see what kind of layers are inside of our collaborate.org Inteleview. At the top, you'll see where we can search for all kinds of different layers, different hierarchies that you see here. Now let's search for some really interesting layers from OpenSignal, which is a disaster management application. Here it is. Now why don't we add a new folder within our hierarchy so that we can store the new layers for our portal that we would like to keep. We'll give it a title. We'll provide a little description also so that people will know what's inside of this folder. Next, we'll provide a couple of metadata tags so that when people search, they'll be able to find it. In this case, this will be WMS information for our demo. Then we get to define who gets to see the information in this folder. In this case, all the logged in users in collaborate.org, because we're going to share this data with everyone. We can now take the crisis map information, drag it down, and drop it onto our folder, and now we've just added it to our new folder. We'll also add this water level conditions layer as well. Let's turn them on now, and we'll take a look at some of the other viewing capabilities that we have. Let's open up the details for each one of these layers, and you'll see that we can vary the transparency of each one of these layers as it's laid down on top of the terrain and the other layers. Sometimes we have to change the rendering order so that we can do things like what you're about to see, which is I want to fade away the terrain underneath, but keep the other layers on top. It matters what order we render things in. So this capability is all provided within the Active Layers tab within the Layer Manager. Let's close things down now and turn off those layers and look at some other data that we have inside of collaborate.org. One of the other layers that's really interesting is the live feed of all geolocated tweets in the world. This is coming in live from Twitter and represents about 3% of the tweets that are happening. So again, these are all the ones that are geolocated and it's coming in real time. We can click on a few here to just look at what's happening live. Let's stop it right now because it is a lot of data. We could actually filter down those live tweets also using keywords inside of the box that you see there. Next, let's take a look at some other really interesting data. The SpaceQuest AIS data is a layer that comprises all major marine going vessels, maritime vessels in the world. This is from our friends at SpaceQuest. They actually have a satellite that flies overhead that picks up the transponder information from all of these vessels. So there are about 35,000 of them in the world, and this satellite is updating all of this information in real time. And so they've been really great to make this data available for us. We can click on different vessels and see their detailed information. We can then filter based on certain keywords. Let's put in most of a word Atlantic, and now we see all the vessels that just match that keyword. Sometimes, though, we want to see it not just in geospatial view, but also in list mode. So we can bring up the layer data where it will list all of the different items that match that keyword. And we can change it dynamically on the fly. Let's type back in Atlantic, and now we see that there are just 3 vessels that match those criteria. Let's dock this here. We'll expand it back a little bit. And now let's go down and find where the Atlantic moon is. We'll click on that entry, and it'll take it right to her. There she is. Now we can look at her detailed information as well. So besides all Twitter information and all live maritime vessel information, let's look at some of the other data that we also have within collaborate.org. We also have Tensity's feed of social media information. This is not just Twitter information, but tweets, 100,000 different blogs, RSS feeds, and all kinds of other information as well. In this case, we have it searching for keywords, anything having to do with disasters. And we can take a look at, in this case, many tweets that have to do with the word disaster. And we can also filter them down as well. So let's look for, within that feed, of emergency tweets also, and look at those that have come in. What's neat about the intensity information is that it also goes back historically. So we can go back in time also. Let's take a look at that now. So right now we were just looking at things in the last day or so. Let's change that and look back further in time. Let's go back a couple days and update our display. But this time let's put in a keyword again of Obama. Now we'll be looking back over the past couple days at all of the tweets that have occurred or other information that also had Obama as a keyword. Let's take a look at one here. And another one. So we also have historical social media information through our friends at Intensity also. Let's close that up. Now let's look at something else that's really interesting. Besides the other data that you've seen before, we can also search on all of the RSS feeds that exist in the world. These are live news feeds that happen from all kinds of different sources all over the world. So we actually have all major RSS feeds in the world built into collaborate.org also. So let's take a look at a couple of them. These tend to be news stories, as you can see, and then you can click on the read more that you see when we popped it up and look at the full article. We can also do keyword searches on these as well. So here is a news story about Obama, and we can look at them in the table view as well. You can see there are quite a few different pages of RSS feeds that have had him as a keyword in the last few days. Next, let's take a look at another class of data that's really interesting. From our friends at Digital Globe, who is one of the largest commercial satellite providers in the world, we also are adding in satellite imagery. So from their archive of millions of different images, we have a few different passes from their satellite here, and we can click on one of the entries to bring up what is in their catalog. So in this case, it's showing us a low resolution version of what the satellite captured. And then very soon we'll be able to make it so that people can then purchase the high resolution version as well. Finally, something else that we have in the collaborate.org data exchange is even live sensor data. These are all the sensors from IntelliSense that we've deployed across the world over the last few years. We can zoom in, let's say into the San Francisco Bay Area, click on a particular sensor, and see the live data coming in from that sensor right now. We can look over various periods of time and turn on and off all kinds of different parameters that we see for that particular live sensor. Now, let's look at how easy it is for us to add our own data into our collaborate.org portal. Let's add a new KML file to our portal. So we'll go to add, we'll then add KML shapefile or KMZ file. We'll give it a name. In this case, Japanese earthquakes. These are the ones that happened during the Fukushima crisis and the tsunami that happened there. We'll give it some metadata tags, Japan and earthquake, so that other people can find it. And then we'll share the layer that we're about to upload with everybody that is on collaborate.org. Now what we do is we click to either share the file or we just easily drag and drop our KML file here to add it to the collaborate.org data exchange. We click save. Now let's turn it on. We'll go over to Japan, zoom in a little bit, and we'll see that file that we just uploaded. We've now shared that file with everybody in the world. We can click on some of the different items in it now. And that's how easy it is to add data.